Alright, so before we move on from text stamps to some other stamps we have available to us, I wanted to cover just a few more topics. So let's bring up our our layout file where we have our text stamp that we were previously working with. And I'm going to go ahead and just copy this entire text stamp. Now, this is something that you're going to do a lot when you get into building product templates, is you will be reusing text stamps and press marks and image stamps from one product template to the next and copying pre-batch definitions into new files and all of that. So the amount of reuse you're going to get from products that you build is very high. So we're going to come over here, copy this text stamp, we're going to come down below it, and let's go ahead and paste that in. So right now we just have two identical text stamps, and that's not really going to do much for us. But I'm going to take this text stamp and I'm going to turn it in such that it shows the order ID with the text rotated over on the left side of our content. So how we'll do that, first we'll start with the format string, and we will change this to be just the order ID, but in front of that we'll just put the words order ID. So that'll display that text. So we'll leave the font Arial, that's fine. We'll come back to the X and Y positions in a little bit. The rotation, I'm actually going to turn this because, like I said, I want the text to be displayed and oriented on the left side of the content. So I'm going to set this rotation to 270 degrees, and we'll see why in a little bit. The font size I'm going to make a little bit bigger. We're going to take that up to 18. Positioning will still be relative. Side is going to be left. I'll leave the color black. The box, though, that we're going to be relative to, in this case, is going to be media. Now remember, the media box is the entire piece of content, including that white space that we have around the content. So we're going to be relative to media. And now, here's an attribute we haven't really talked about much yet. I'm going to go ahead and set auto center to true. Now, that basically allows us to center whatever the element is we're working with between the two edges of the content. And there's something that you need to understand when working with auto center. Now, if your side is set to either left or right, then when auto center is enabled, that object is going to be centered between the top and bottom edges of the content. So we're centering vertically. If this side were to be set to either top or bottom, then the element would be centered horizontally. So we're going to go ahead and leave this set to left, which means we're going to center this text vertically between the top and bottom edges of the content. Now in this case, I don't want any of the knockout stuff. So I'm not worried about any of the knockout attributes, so I'm just going to grab all of those and we're going to remove that from our text stamp. So that leaves us with just the stamp range, and we're going to do this on every page, so we'll leave that at 1 to n. Now, the other thing we need to do here is we need to change the position for our X and Y. Now, since I have decided to use auto center, and that's set to true, and we're centering vertically, given that my side is equal to left, that means that the Y position really isn't going to get used. So just as a kind of a standard, I'm going to go ahead and set Y to 0 because in this case it really has no meaning. Now the X value, on the other hand, does have a meaning. That's going to be how far from the left edge is this text going to be. Now I know that the white space on the left, or on all sides of the content, is 72 points, so I'm going to go halfway between that and I'm just going to set this to 36. So now we have our stamp here. We're going to display the order ID on the left. We're going to center it top to bottom, and we have the font pretty good size at 18 points. So let's go ahead and save this. Come back over to our UI and let's reprocess this at pre-batch and see what our output looks like. So if everything worked out as expected, we should have that text on the left-hand side of our order content. And here we have it. We have order ID with the value for order ID. We have it positioned halfway between the bottom and top, and it is 36 points off of the very edge. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we were after. Now, The rotation that I used was 270. So what you need to understand with rotation is that we're going to rotate to the left by whatever the number of degrees is specified. And you can use either 0, 90, 270, and that's pretty much it because 360 would be back to 0. So in this case, we said rotate 270 degrees. So if this text were to be positioned at 0, where it would just be reading left to right horizontally, if you were to flip that 3 times, you would end up in this orientation right here. Flip it 3 times to the left, that is. So that's how we end up with this 270 degree rotation where it's oriented as you see right here. So let's go ahead and add one more text stamp, but this time we're going to add it to the right. And we're going to use a couple more of the variables that you will typically see used in product template development. So we'll come back down here. Now this time, since we pretty much want this exact same style and type of stamp, I'm going to copy this one. We'll come down a couple lines, paste that in. Now the format string this time, what I would like to display on the right-hand side, is the current page and the total number of pages of our output that we're looking at. So in that case, I'm just going to type the word page, and then I'm going to use a variable %page, and then I'm going to put the word of, and then the total number of pages variable is %pages. So that will result in a text string that basically says page 1 of however many pages we have in our content. So I'm going to keep the same font. We'll leave that at Arial. I'm going to keep the same distance of 36, but I'm going to come back to this in just a little bit. We'll have our same distance of y, or 0 for y, because we're going to use auto center again. The rotation this time, though, I want it to be opposite of that 270. So opposite of 270, when we're talking about degrees and rotation, is going to be 90. The font size, I'm going to leave at 18. We'll keep our positioning relative. This time, though, we don't want it relative to the left side of the content. We want it relative to the right side. We'll keep the same color black. We're still associated or relative to the media box. We want auto center equal true because I want that to auto center between the top and bottom, and auto center is going to be vertical because our side is one of the two options, left or right. So we have our auto center, and then the last one is just the stamp range of 1 to n, and that means it's going to occur on every single page of our output. So let's go ahead, oh, actually before we save this, one more thing. So we have this x value of 36, but that's a positive 36. So if our side is equal to the right, if we were to move 36 points in a positive direction on the x-axis, that means that our content would be completely off the entire right side of our page, and it would never display. So since our side is equal to right, we actually need to come back the other direction. So our x value, we want to start 36 points in to the left from that right-hand edge. So we're going to make that a 36 negative, save that, and then we will come back and reprocess our output or our pre-batch to make sure that things are showing up as we would expect. So it looks like that should be done by now. We'll come back and go to View and then Pre-Batch. And there we have our pages 1 of 10 showing up on the right-hand side. We can see that that's centered, and we can see that it's 36 points off of the edge to the top of those letters. Another thing that I would like to point out here, since we still have the padding added to this document, is you can see here that currently we're on page 1 of 10. And if I come down, we can see the next one is page 2 of 10. So that variable is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's putting in the current page that we're on and the total number of pages in our output. So we come down through 3, 4, 5. Now remember that on page 5, we told it to pad an extra page. So when I look at that padded page, notice I'm still on 5 of 10. So that padding does not increment our page count. And then you can see we just go to the end of the document. So there we have additional text stamps that we've added, but we've used rotation, and we've also seen how to use the auto center based on the side that you have defined for those stamps. So that's all I think we're going to cover right now related to text stamps. And in the next video, we're going to start looking at some other stamps available to us, and we're going to come back to this box down here on the bottom, and we're going to add both a barcode, and I think in this case we'll put in a two-dimensional barcode, and we're also going to add in a logo. And then once we have those items, we're going to go ahead and reposition this entire box, and we'll see how all of those move together as a group. So that's about it for this video, and I will catch you in the next one.